Hi, Coach Shawn here. Let's talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough: life after divorce, especially when that divorce involved narcissism or just a high conflict individual, and in many cases, parental alienation. Because this isn't just a divorce. I don't understand divorce in amicable situations, much less in high conflict. I mean, logic being, if you and your ex get along so well, then why aren't you still married? I don't know. Divorce is a complete restructuring of your life, and the more high conflict a partner you were married to, the harder it will be to move forward. One of the first things people notice that may confirm that they were with the wrong partner is how quickly the other person moves on. They're in a new relationship, oblivious to the destruction they have caused, and you're sitting there thinking, well, what the heck do I do now? But here's the truth: people who avoid accountability also avoid processing. So what looks like moving on is often just moving on to the next distraction. And meanwhile, you're doing the harder work. You're processing. You've grieved your old life, and now you are still trying to figure out what's next and what the next moves look like moving into your next life. You'll sometimes hear people say it takes about 1 year for every 5 years you were in the relationship. And while that's not a scientific rule, it's not far off in terms of emotional reality. If you were with someone for 20 or 25, 30 years, you're not going to bounce back in a year or two. That was your life, your identity, your family, your future. So yes, it takes years to feel like yourself again. It means you're processing and rebuilding, and you're going to get there. Now here's what makes this even more complex. A lot of you are divorcing later in life, so it's not just the marriage ending, it's every other life event happening at once. Your children are older or leaving. You're becoming an empty nester. You are dealing with estrangement or alienation. Your parents are aging or passing. Your home is probably changing. Your entire future shifts: what retirement might look like, where you wanted to retire, your financial future. This isn't one loss or change, it's multiple losses or changes all at the same time, and that's why it can feel overwhelming. And I'm going to say something that may be controversial, but most people do not leave long-term marriages later in life unless something was deeply wrong. This isn't what people plan for. This isn't what people hope for. So when you're sitting there feeling judged or like you need to explain yourself, don't. You don't need to convince the world what happened in your marriage. You need to focus on yourself. And let's talk about healing. I don't mind the word healing, but I really don't love the word healed, because this isn't something that just disappears. It's more like a scar. It happened, it changed you, and over time, you won't think about it in the same way and you won't react in the same way, but it is still part of your story. And eventually, it's yours for sharing. And what people want to believe or not believe, it's up to them. You don't need to explain. You just start focusing on something much, much more simple: your peace and some level of happiness every day, day by day. But here's the reality of this stage of life. There's a lot of grief and reflection. Grief is part of life, especially as we age. You lose people, you lose roles, you lose versions of your life, and then there's reflection, looking back, learning, asking yourself, what would I have done differently? And that's growth, that's processing, that's learning. And for some of you, there's another layer, and that's your children. You may find yourself in a position where the relationship is no longer healthy, and that's one of the hardest realities to accept when you have an unhealthy relationship with your child or children. It requires, looking at it in a much different way. You love your children, and that love is unique in and of itself. But if you've had to step back, or they have, it's not that you don't love your children, but you have to keep choosing yourself and health. So what does healthy look like? How do you have health in your 50s, 60s, and 70s? It's not just physical health, it's emotional health, financial health, social health. It's building a life that supports you, not one that drains you. And here's something that's really important. If a relationship is unhealthy, even if it's with your adult child, that cannot be healthy for you. It's not a foundation of your well-being. And that's the hard truth, but it's a necessary one. And it's what makes this difficult, is that most people would rather point the finger than look inward. And without willingness, nothing changes. So if you're left navigating all of this, divorce, aging, loss, alienation, or estrangement, and still trying to build a life, I want you to hear me when I say this. There is nothing easy about this stage of life when all of these things collide. But if you're still here, that means there's still something left for you here. You still have a life to build. I want you to know you don't have to go through this alone. There are people all over the world who are in the same situation. I work with them. I coach them one-on-one on Zoom. And I also have a weekly group that meets every Tuesday night at 7:30, where we talk about these exact things: aging, parental alienation, estrangement. If you want support, you want understanding, and if you want to be in a room where people get it, join us. You can find everything you need in the link in my bio. Please like and share and follow for more videos.